The greatest heist in American history isn't what you think. It's been happening in plain sight for over a century. Now whistleblowers are coming forward with proof that could bring down the entire system. What they discovered will shock every taxpayer in America. Former government insiders are risking everything to expose the truth. Documents are being rushed to Congress. Governors are calling for revolutionary changes. The establishment is doing everything in their power to keep this quiet, but the dam just broke. The evidence is overwhelming. The fraud is undeniable. And millions of Americans are about to discover that they have been robbed blind by their own government. This changes everything. So keep on watching. Now, when the IRS comes knocking on and your world turns upside down, you'll wish you had backup plans. That's why I trust My Patriot Supply. Right now, they're offering $100 off their 3-month emergency food kit. When government overreach hits your doorstep, whether it's asset seizure, bank freezes, or worse, you need food security. And this kit delivers over 2,000 calories daily for 90 days, real meals in sturdy buckets lasting 25 years, made in America, no MSG, no junk, fast, free shipping, plus a disaster replacement guarantee. Don't let them catch you unprepared. Go to preparewithgary.com. Secure your family's future today. Now, we've got lots to unpack in this report. I got a message from Joe Banister today and Vandersteel as well. So they put this on my radar. I've been tracking this in the background for some time now. But we're going to get into all the stuff, especially what's going on in Florida. But this is huge. Now, I want to go in. This is from Ann Vandersteel just 4 days ago. The receipts are in the mail. Follow up to the IRS story on the massive fraud against we the people. I just overnighted a package that will expose and bury the IRS. Let's listen.
The judicial... What's up, MAGA? Well, we just delivered our package to Ed Martin. It'll be delivered tomorrow morning by 10:30. This is on the IRS corruption, judicial corruption, DOJ corruption. In the case of Ebenezer Howe, a gentleman who had false tax returns filed by the IRS. The judicial system covered it up, including the DOJ. There is an investigation going on over at the, should we say, the taxation OIG office, if you will. It's called TIGTA. And we've got an open case in the Ninth Circuit right now where they are still trying to basically steal Mr. Howe's home because they claim he didn't pay his taxes, when in fact it was the IRS who was falsifying tax returns, manipulating his individual master file, and there's just total, complete corruption and cover-up. But it's all documented. We have every single receipt, and I just put the physical receipts in an overnight to Ed Martin, the great and wonderful Ed Martin. You guys have a good day.
And Vandersteel on the case. So what exactly is going on? Let's take a deeper look. She posted this 24 hours ago. Call to action, IRS, DOJ, judiciary fraud. The Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, TIGTA, Employee Integrity Complaint, TRN 24100364, shows multi-layered fraud across the government, including IRS, DOJ, and the judicial system. Let's listen to what she is talking about here.
An AKA America, I need your help. We caught the IRS, DOJ, and elements of a corrupt judiciary engaging in fraud on the American people in the U.S. versus Howe. And now the public gets to help finish them off. A formal complaint was lodged October 3rd, 2024, with Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, AKA TIGTA, under its employee integrity remit. It details how specific IRS personnel allegedly manipulated computer records and how an IRS attorney concealed that misconduct during district court litigation involving a case claiming that Mr. Ebenezer Howe owed back taxes. In short, this case is documenting multi-layered fraud across the government, including the IRS, DOJ, and judicial system. The complaint shows that the sequence of acts, the digital artifacts left in IRS data, and where DOJ relied on those outputs in U.S. v. Howe, now on appeal in the Ninth Circuit. Here are the names: Revenue Officer Bradley Marler and IRS Attorney Kimberly L. Clark. The watchdog, TIGTA, has the case, TRN-2410-0364, and we need one simple thing: the status and the estimated completion date of TICTA's employee integrity investigation. Why does this matter, and why does it matter to you? Well, a firm completion date and ultimately TICTA's findings are critical to the Ninth Circuit appeal. With that date, we can move to pause briefing so the court doesn't rely on disputed records. With the results in hand, we can seek relief that could stop the forfeiture of Mr. Howe's home. If TICTA hasn't moved, perhaps a public inquiry can jumpstart action. If TICTA says closed, no findings, your outreach can force a re-examination. Here's where you come in. I'm bringing you all a very important and significant call to action. Would you politely contact Acting IG Heather Hill and ask for the status and estimated completion date for TRN-2410-0364 involving IRS Attorney Kimberly Clark and Revenue Officer Bradley Marler. Ms. Hill's email and phone number are below. Be firm, be respectful. Let's get the date, make the courts wait for the truth, and stop government from using tainted data to take anyone's home.
So that is only the beginning. Here's more. They've been running a RICO fraud against the American people, she writes, fabricating tax returns, covering up, and using fake records in court. It's not a tax issue. It's multi-layered criminal cartel in a government that includes that all. Now, I want to bring up, this is what, this is a little longer clip, but first, this is when I grilled the Treasury Secretary on the IRS back in April. Fascism showed Congressman.
Can you answer?
Secretary of Senate,
please.
Two questions.
Secretary of Senate, the late Aaron Russo's America Freedom to Fascism showed Congressman Ron Paul admitting no law requires a Form 1040, yet the IRS targeted folks like Special Agent Joseph Bannister and IRS Agent Sherry Peel Jackson with criminal persecution. With whistleblowers Shapley and Ziegler in Treasury leadership, will your team probe IRS fraud, unlawful wage seizures, political targeting of IRS enforcement, and or IRS enforcement of Americans never been made liable?
No, I want to answer this. This is important. And look, Gary and Joe are patriots. They are heroes. And I brought them into Treasury because I found out that they were being, after they came forward in the Hunter Biden whistleblowing scandal, they were being harassed at the IRS. So I brought them into Treasury. They're going to spend a year making sure that that no one's rights are violated, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Then they're going to give me a fulsome report, and they're going to go back and assume leadership positions at the IRS.
Secretary, put forward anything on trade deals? Howard Lutnick said on CNBC that you are in charge of China and he is in charge of the rest of the world on trade negotiations. Is that accurate?
So I was there at the White House, able to ask the question about the enforcement of the income tax. Now, this is a really important clip you need to hear.
Real IDs, and then file for over and get payments for child tax credits fraudulently, never get prosecuted. Explain how this can happen.
You and your guest, Laura, were talking a lot about the deep state earlier in your show, and I would propose that the IRS is the original deep state operation.
One of those things that we identified they want to spend billions of dollars on is to hire 87,000 more IRS agents. Imagine an army of IRS agents coming after the bank accounts of hardworking families.
Joseph R. Banister, a former IRS Criminal Investigation Division special agent, has blown the whistle on an IRS fraudulently collecting federal income tax from Americans through a scheme he calls the 1040A scam. After resigning in 1999, Banister spent over 25 years exposing what he alleges is systemic IRS fraud. including the manipulation of internal computer systems to assess taxes, penalties, and interest against individuals who have not voluntarily filed tax returns. Banister argues that IRS notices referencing Form 1040A in cases where no such form was filed serve as evidence of this fraud, as the agency falsely inputs data to create tax liabilities. Banister asserts that most Americans are not legally required to file federal income tax returns or pay income tax, citing the absence of a law imposing liability on the average American since 1916. He points to the IRS's own publications, which state that only those liable for a tax must file a return, and notes that federal law primarily imposes income tax liability on non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. The 1916 Supreme Court decision in Brushaber versus Union Pacific Railroad Company limited the scope of the 16th Amendment, ensuring that subsequent tax laws excluded average Americans from liability, a structure Banister claims was intentional to maintain constitutional compliance. The 1040A scam involves the IRS allegedly inputting fraudulent codes into its computer systems, specifically referencing Form 1040A, to create the appearance that individuals requested the IRS to calculate their tax liability. Banister provides evidence from his own case where IRS notices and individual master file transcripts referenced a Form 1040A he never filed. He explains that the IRS uses the unique feature of Form 1040A, which allows filers to request tax calculations by the IRS to justify fraudulent assessments. This pattern, he claims, has been repeated against millions of Americans, even after Form 1040A was discontinued in 2018, with notices morphing to reference a non-existent Form 1040A. Bannister calls for further investigation into the IRS's archaic computer systems, which he believes are maintained to perpetuate this fraud. He suggests that the IRS's reliance on outdated technology and reluctance to provide IMF transcripts via FOIA requests conceal the scam's mechanics. Banister urges Elon Musk, President Trump, and the Doge fraud hunters to probe the IRS's internal programming for evidence of fraudulent data manipulation. Comparing the
Now, that's just 4 minutes into that clip. I'm going to go ahead and repost this right now because it's 8 minutes long. It'll be on the top of my X feed, so you need to watch the whole thing in full. It is explosive. We're going to get to what's going on in Florida in a moment here. Now, let's check this out.
How many people in government now? Ben Franklin here.
Now, I want to make sure I have to do a little disclaimer here because this is an AI generated video. So anyway, watch.
I was playing with my kite in a lightning storm and ended up in the present-day crime-ridden capital. Let's check on the state of this filthy shithole. So how many people in government now?
At least 3 million if you don't count the military, and we're pretty much always hiring.
Dude, what the fuck? But you have spending under control?
No, once we're elected, we don't give a shit about that. We're 36 trillion in debt and rising.
Bro, I didn't even know numbers even went that high.
How can you spend that much on the gold standard?
We got rid of that silly idea over 50 years ago. Science has proven that money isn't real and anyone can just print it. What's up with England now? How's the king?
Well, they have a new king now named Mohammed.
Oh, man, sucks to suck. What are you guys paying taxes nowadays? Shit, man, between income, property, and sales tax, it's like 30 to 40%. Yeah, you lost me at income tax. Why haven't you guys used the Second Amendment to start a new government?
Oh, man. You got to love AI-generated videos here. Here's Joe Banister. He was a certified public accountant who went to work for the IRS as a special agent of the Criminal Investigation Division. I know him personally, consider him a friend. He risked everything to expose what is going on at the IRS, and he is still doing it. Let's do a throwback to this moment.
Creation of fiat money. Concerned about it. So what I did was I gave a copy to my immediate supervisor, and inside the report, I basically centered on 3 allegations. Due to the constitutional limitations, most Americans are not required to file returns and pay income tax. That was the first allegation or claim. The second one was that the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never legally ratified. And the third allegation was that the U.S. government finances its operations from the unconstitutional creation of fiat money, not with revenue from income taxes. So how do you think that got accepted by my supervisor? Well, with the report, I sent along a transmittal letter, and the basic message there was, look, I've devoted everything I could to doing a sincere job in investigating these claims. And I ended with, if the IRS declines to conduct its analysis or dismisses the evidence, then I must tender my resignation. My oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States was made to God, and I cannot serve two masters. Well, naive little Joe who thinks that maybe all these other agents that took the same oath that I did and are supposed to abide by the same guidelines that I did, they're concerned about it. So what I did was
Joe Banister, American hero, my friends. Okay, we're going to check in. Here's more. This was actually published 6 days ago, but it is an older interview with Joe Banister when he was on Special Report with Maria Bartiromo.
And they are...
Why do you think you've been able to get away with not paying or filing your income taxes for so long?
Well, first of all, I've not gotten away with anything. I'm not hiding from anyone. I'm simply asking the IRS to show me the laws that apparently require me to do these things, and they are suspiciously reticent to answer questions from me. And of course, there are millions of other people, many other organizations who have attempted to get answers. They act very suspiciously when asked to simply sit down at the table with the American people and discuss what their obligations are. Rather than pulling up a chair, they pull out a club.
Now, this is actually a clip from America, Freedom to Fascism. Let's keep going here. Let's check in with what's going on in Florida. MJ Truth Ultra. That's it. I'm moving to Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis calls for the abolishment of property taxes. This is huge.
The homestead. I want property tax relief more than anything, and so that's what we're going to deliver. I mean, if you own your home and that's like your primary residence and you have a homestead and everything like that, I don't see how government has the right to keep asking you to pony up infinitum to just pay rent to them to just live on the property that you supposedly own. If it's private property, that means you own it free and clear of the government. And I think for too long, we've just allowed, some of these local governments, and maybe not as much here, I don't know, but in other parts of the state, massive expansion of local government budgets because property values rise and they just get all this money flowing in. And that's kind of turned into a gravy train. But if you have a home and all of a sudden they're saying it's worth so much more, even with homestead, you still pay more. And that's tough for a lot of people. And so wouldn't it be great? Free state of Florida means no income tax and you own your own home without them being able to hit you up for property tax.
There's just not enough tea to throw in the harbor. My goodness. Okay, so this is Ann's longer cut about the RICO fraud against the American people she's reporting about. Now, this was in just a couple of days ago. She posted this, and I'm just gonna roll it. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. It's like an hour long, but I'll repost it if you want to check it out.
System circled the wagons to protect itself. Multi-layered. We got him. We finally got him. We caught the IRS red-handed. For years, they've been telling you, the American people, to pay up or else, waving around those so-called official transcripts and certificates as if they were gospel. Well, guess what? They're frauds, fabricated, phantom tax returns the IRS claims that you filed but can't produce because they never existed. Here's the crime. An IRS agent falsified the records. A supervisor covered it up. The DOJ marched into court and used those fake records against Americans, and then admitted under oath they have no signed returns to back it up. That's not sloppy paperwork. That's RICO fraud, a criminal enterprise operating under color of law. And it doesn't stop there. Judges look the other way, clerks issued phantom orders, and the whole rotten system circled the wagons to protect itself. Multi-layered fraud, IRS, DOJ, and the judicial system. This is enough. Enough to prove the IRS is not a tax collector. It's a criminal cartel preying on its own people, and when an agency survives only by fabricated evidence, it's not just corrupt, it's illegitimate. It's time to shut down this rogue agency once and for all. We're not going to reform it. We're not going to slap it on the wrist. We're going to abolish it. We've got the evidence, we've got the admissions, and now the American people have the truth. The IRS has been running a RICO fraud, and the whole house of cards is coming down. Chew on this, America.
Okay, I thought that was the longer clip, but it's not. But you can check her out. She's got a long, like 60-minute video on this whole thing. But that's exactly why I needed to go and ask the Treasury Secretary directly about this fraud. Now, he didn't answer the question the way I would have hoped, but, you know, we were there on the ground making sure that the voices of those who have been affected, like Joe and Sherry Peel Jackson, get heard. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Now, this is about survival, yours and your families. When Joe Banister, a fraud expert inside the IRS, couldn't find the law requiring income tax after being offered $50,000 to prove it, he exposed the biggest con in history. Now we have governors calling for abolishing property taxes, whistleblowers delivering evidence to Congress, in court cases proving the IRS falsified records 56 times to steal one man's home. The system is built on lies, enforced by fear, and protected by corruption spanning the IRS, DOJ, and judiciary. They've stolen trillions from hardworking Americans through a tax code that even their own agents can't justify. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's documented fact from government insiders. So here's my question. If the IRS can't show you the law requiring income tax, should you still have to pay? Yes or no? Hit those comments. Let's continue the conversation. And while you're at it, grab some Next News gear from our shop below and show the world that you are awake to their schemes.